Welcome back to another episode of Pioneers and Builders in the city of Jacksonville, Florida. If I shorten it a little bit, we call it PB Jax. As always, we're talking to small and medium-sized business owners who have built right here in Jacksonville, Florida. Today's no different. I have an amazing friend of mine, Mr. Bob Dahlstrom. Bob, welcome to PB Jax.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
You're very welcome. Thank you. You are the founder and CEO of Appellix, which is a wonderful brand. We're going to dive all into it. But the most important thing is you built Appellix here in Jacksonville.
Yes.
And how long ago? Well, when was Appellix founded?
So it was founded 4/4/14. So just turned 12.
It just turned 12 years old.
Yep, 12 years old.
Okay.
Yep.
You're not a Jacksonville original, though, either.
No, but I've been here for 25 years.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into that.
Yeah.
Let's start with what you were doing right before Appellix.
So before Appellix, I also had a startup here in Jacksonville, Florida. So it actually started last century, right? So 1999.
Did I know this?
I don't think you did. No. I was a college professor at FSU, and I came up with a software technology idea for internet filtering, basically. And at the time, you had to have programmers physically in the space, right? This was like dial-up era, right, of internet. So Jacksonville had a better talent pool than Tallahassee, where I was teaching as a professor. So I started the business here in Jacksonville. And so we sold this, we pivoted, right? And made this, I guess now you would almost call it an agent, right? That ran on servers and desktops and clients and all sorts of different things in the cloud, which wasn't called the cloud back then. And we actually were doing 100% of the filtering for the country of Singapore at one point in time with 6, we called them pizza boxes, 1 RU, 1 rack unit, little boxes. So,
really?
Yeah, run out of my office. It was called Blueprint Data, and it was run out of my office in San Marco. And
you sold it? Or you did?
I stepped back from it when I moved into Appellix.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm partial owner, but it's still an operating company.
Okay. For everybody that knows Appellix, they're familiar, but for those who aren't, drones, most notably pressure washing drones.
Right.
So you can tether it. It goes up to height, correct me if I'm wrong, up to 190 feet roughly.
Correct. And
you clean all kinds of buildings so that people don't put themselves in a position to get hurt at height, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
How did that come about in your mind when you were doing server work and you pivoted into drones?
Well, it's kind of interesting because my dad was in aerospace, and he never really understood the software thing. But when I started the drone company, I also tell people it's a software company because without software, it's a brick. He kind of understood that, and we had talk a common language. But one of the other things my dad always taught me was he was very safety oriented because working in with airplanes, right? As a foreman, you have to take safety seriously because people die if things don't get done properly on an airplane.
Yep.
So having that upbringing, I also worked my way through college painting houses. And so my house needed painting, and I had a scaffolding and the ladder on top of the scaffolding, and I'm up there spraying, and I'm not in college anymore. There's got to be a better way. The innovator's dilemma, right? Got to be a better way. So I'm like, ooh, software. Control with drones and software, control the drone so that it, is able to paint. And I'm like, it wouldn't really work. Paint's, heavy, battery life is limited. You'd have to land all the time and be swapping out the paint and the battery. And that's when I looked down, the compressor and the paint were on the ground. I'm holding the sprayer. I'm like, eureka, put the sprayer on the drone, have the hose come up, the fluid and the power and all that. And so I went home here in my garage in San Marco and built a proof of concept that actually worked better than I thought. Because I thought, the spinning propellers would just blow the paint everywhere. But it turns out there's a very, very large drop in airspeed with just a small amount. It's very logarithmic. So it drops precipitously very quickly. So it's able to, with just, spray wand being this far, 6 inches past the blades, you can spray paint. So went into development of the painting drone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long were you in the painting life cycle before you decided that pressure washing was the better move?
So there was a couple things, and this will be good for entrepreneurs to know because, two things. One is you can't get distracted by shiny objects because every time it's like, okay, what's a drone? It's a platform. It can do this. It can do this. It can do this. It can do this. It can do power wash. It can spray paint. It can do other things. So one of our first customers, so we went, heads down in development when I started the company, got incorporated, filed the patent, got a few friends to invest in it. And so I started developing the software for the spray painting drone. But that's really hard, right? I mean, because your tolerance is really difficult. Right? So I tell people, self-driving car, you tell it to stop, it stops. You tell a drone to stop, it's going to fall out of the sky. It's so much harder for that technology. And if you're applying paint, you're too close, you just make a mess. Too far, you make a mess. So it's the precision that's required for that from an aircraft is just mind-blowing. I tell people, it's harder than a self-driving car.
Yeah.
So that's why it's taken 12 years to get that to market. But one of the first things that happened was we had a shipbuilder that makes the aircraft destroyers and aircraft carriers, right? Contact us and say, "Oh, we want you to come paint ships." Well, we go out there, we learn all about the process of how they paint ships, and it's like 17 pound per gallon instead of like 6 pounds per gallon or 8 pounds per gallon that normal paint is, because it's got all these exotic components like zinc and stuff in it.
Yep.
And there's very specific pattern which you have to spray, and you measure the thickness in thousandths of an inch. So, you put it on like a mil is a thousandth of an inch. You put it on 12 mils wet, 8 mils dry, and then you have, plus or minus 20%. Well, we're like, oh my God, to do that with a drone is going to take a decade, So we asked them, being a good entrepreneur, a good question to always ask is, well, what's one of your pain points? And they're like, well, it's actually measuring the thickness of paint. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Who measures the thickness of paint? If you cover it and it looks good, isn't that good? Because that's architectural painting. That's how you paint houses. But in industrial painting, there's a specification. You have to put it down with a certain, thickness. And so you measure that thickness. And there's this handheld device. You take a probe tip, you touch it up to the side of the ship, and it'll tell you how thick that is. And they're like, that's really a problem for us. And I'm like, well, why? They said, because this side of the ship, they have to take 2,000 measurements. So that's a guy going up in a lift, touching a thing to a ship, coming down a little bit, touching it again, coming down a little bit, touching it again, going over, going back up, doing that repeatedly all down the hull. And so it takes about a week for the QA team at these large ship manufacturing places to measure the thickness of steel, the thickness of the painting, of the paint, of the coating on the ship. And I'm like, wow. Then they said, that's not it. We put a base coat and 4 other coats on there. So that's 5 times. We're down a week where we're just waiting for the QA guys to come, and we're in Pascagoula, Mississippi, where, there's not a lot of good painting days. You're right on the ocean, and it's very humid and salt and all this stuff. So we're like, wow, if we can solve that problem, we got it made. So we ended up, that's called non-destructive testing when you measure that thickness. So we ended up making a branch in the software, because we're like, okay, if the software is keeping the drone a certain distance, we can make another branch where it goes in with the wand on it, and that wand makes physical contact to take those measurements. So that's what we did. But it turned out to be not a shiny object, but there was no product market fit, because the standards were such that they wouldn't change to adapt to a better way of doing it, right? Because we could get, say an above ground storage tank, we could get 600 readings in the amount of time it took a person to do 60. But it turns out there was no economic incentive for that, because the service providers usually did this and they would charge hours plus, cost plus. And so nobody would buy this. Instead, they say, oh, this is great. This is working on out of service above ground storage tanks. Most of our petroleum tanks here, because we're working with the majors, the oil majors, right? So we're inside of active oil and gas refineries in our FRCs, our fire retardant clothing with all the safety gear and stuff. And they're like, that works good for, out of service tanks, but in service tanks have flammable petroleum in them. Those are hazardous zones, next to the tank for the next 2 feet, because methane will flow down out of the vents, kind of like a waterfall, and then it hits the ground and evaporates. So that 2 feet next to that storage tank is a potential for hazardous flammable gases to exist. And it's called Class 1 Div 2 or ATEX Zone 2. And so we went and we put a $17,000 gas device on there that would stream in real time the LEL concentrations of gas. And the safety people let us in. So to this day, as far as we know, we're the only drone company in the world that has ever operated a drone inside of Class 1 Div 2 location. So we took measurements and they're like, okay, that's good, but we want this other thing. And then we're like, well, that would take years and millions of more dollars of development. We're not doing that. And so we went back to the drawing board, and that's when we switched to doing the pressure washing.
Mhm.
And that, because it was so simple. Yeah, the other thing with the other thing with the DFT, dry film thickness measurement, is you needed an ACE level 4 engineer. It was very complicated. It wasn't easy to understand. You had a calibration block. You had all the scientific stuff you had to do. So we switched to something quick and simple and easy everybody can understand. Splashing water on something to clean it,
Mm.
right? And so we already had a big heavy lift drone. So we just made it from ground up so that it could do 4,000 PSI at 8 gallons per minute, which is what, these big industrial people were cleaning with. And as soon as that hit the market, bam.
How did you know that the market was going to be there, or did you?
We didn't, because we were new. Nobody had done this before, but we had a strong suspicion, because just like the ROI we had market adoption with that non-destructive testing drone, which by the way was a $250,000 drone,
Mm.
but it unlocked a lot of value, right? So if you could take readings on a flare stack, for example, and the company doesn't have to shut down that flare stack, you can do it with a drone, but you can't do it with a person, right? Because there's like a 100-meter exclusion zone or 100-foot exclusion zone. You can be saving $1 million or $2 million a day by not having shut down that facility to be able to take measurements, right? We found that same thing on the value creation, not quite as high, but different in different situations, but that same value creation was there. It's like somebody, if they brought it to clean, some of the early adopters were hotels, hospitals, and college campuses. And so if they were to clean these buildings the traditional way, they'd bring in a lift. People would be up in the lift cleaning with water and cleaning agents and then rinsing. And so you've got to rent a lift. You've got to have it delivered. You're doing a job that may take a week or two, and then you're having the lift taken away. So you've got equipment cost, and in addition, you've got your ground cleaning equipment, right? Your pumps and your hoses and your chemical reservoirs and your manifolds and all that. So with a drone, it's so much simpler. You don't have that equipment, and you really sometimes get more than a 20x improvement in speed. So you're less disruptive. You're in, you're out, the job's done. And it's just phenomenal ROI for people that are doing it and doing it well.
So the companies that would hire, we'll get into your business model in a second, but for somebody who's going to hire somebody who operates an Appellix drone to come clean, is there an inherent productivity loss from the people who like ooh and ah?
There is somewhat, there's a problem with that. So, one of the things is, these drones are in 26 countries around the world, and every country has a prohibition from standing underneath them when they're operating. You can't walk underneath them. You can't fly over people with these, unless there are special circumstances or waivers, or certain times you can. But in general, you're not allowed to fly over people. And people are always like walking underneath it, looking at, getting their phones out, tapping the pilot on the shoulder, during the most dangerous part of the mission when he's like really trying to concentrate. So that can be an issue. It may slow you down a little bit, but you're still 20 times faster.
Yeah. I noticed it downtown. Somebody was cleaning the Hyatt, and I went in for a very quick meeting, walked out, guys up there pressure washing the windows, and he's probably got 12 or 13 people just like looking up, videoing, watching him. And I'm like, how many of these people should be doing something productive but are sitting here?
Last week, I was on the phone with one of our owners that owns one of our power washing drones in London, in the UK, in downtown London. So they had a subcontract. So this company the service company had a contract to clean this building. And so they said, we'll clean this one side where the road is, because we have to shut down the road, and we'll get our lifts there and do that side. We want to contract the other 3 sides of this building to you to clean. So they start at 7:00 in the morning. By 10:30, they're done with those 3 sides of the building. And the guys at the front come say, can you finish the rest of us for it? They'd only done like 6 windows. It's that fast.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
So talking about the business model, you aren't the one that's cleaning the buildings.
We're not the service provider. We sell to those.
You sell the drones, and people have the ability to either start a company based off this, or expand an already existing company, whatever the case may be. They buy the drones from you. They go to the buildings or whatever needs to be clean. They procure the contracts directly.
Right.
They don't owe anything back to you because they're buying the drone direct, correct?
Right, exactly. And so we have probably, I would say, in the early days, that was 90% of our customers. They were entrepreneurs that were starting up a business and going out and cleaning buildings. Then the people that had existing businesses started catching on. So the power washing companies that were doing, 1 or 2 stories, because that's what you can get from the ground, started buying the drones so that they could do 10 or 20 stories from the ground. Then the window washing companies came in and started to do it because it's called soft wash. The soft wash companies were eating their lunch because they would clean the entire building, including the facade and the windows, for less than the window washers would charge.
Yep.
So all of a sudden now the window washers started coming in and buying them. And so we've actually seen a migration, which has been a very beautiful thing, right? I mean, our sales are up this quarter over last quarter, 300%. Our sales this month, and it's only the 7th, are up 600% over last year.
Wow.
This month. So
globally. Globally.
Yeah. A third of our sales are external to the U.S. 2/3 are U.S. But we've seen a shift from the entrepreneur starting companies to the established small companies that maybe had 2 or 5 or 10 employees to now we're seeing large organizations buy these, and including people like Universal Studios or, different universities or and in hospitals, even utility companies and manufacturing facilities and municipalities, like small municipalities are buying them. So one example for the change in the business model, which is great for Appellix, is you have, let's say 6 cities, right? And each of those cities may have 5 or 6 elevated water towers, right? On average, it costs right now $25,000 to $35,000 to get a water tower cleaned. And on average, they're done about once every 5 years. And there's some EPA regulations about keeping the external parts of these towers clean. And people actually rate down the water quality as poor if the outside is dirty. So especially in the Southeast or in the Northeast, there's a lot of these elevated towers. And in the summer, they get condensation on them and mold and mildew grow, right? And so they'll pay $25,000 or $35,000 once every 5 years to get a tower cleaned. And the city may have 5 towers, right? So they would pay that to a service provider. He'd do this city, and then he'd go do this city, and then he'd go to this city. But now those cities they're saying, why should we pay that when we can buy a drone for $47,000, clean 2 towers? That's our ROI. And so now these cities, now we have 6 customers that can buy that instead of 1. So the demand that we're seeing coming in is just exponential. And it's a new market where demand far outstrips supply. We've got people that have bought our drones and used to not get out of bed unless they make $5,000 a day with it. Now they're not getting out of bed unless they make $7,500 a day with it. Now there are other people that are failing, right, and not making money. There are other people that have made millions. You've seen our wall of millionaires.
Yes,
our customers, where we put up posters of customers that we know of that have generated $1 million in profit or $1 million in revenue in 1 year with a $47,000 or $60,000 drone.
So yes, there's 2 drones, correct? The
There are 2 now.
47,000 and the 60. So what's the difference between the 2?
For a long time, there was just the one drone is 47,000. And then in 2025, the government passed a law it's called the National Defense Authorization Act. And believe it or not, most of it has to do with cybersecurity. So the more expensive drone is compliant with the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act.
Very cool.
Yeah.
On the cities that are buying the drones, are you noticing that instead of cleaning once every 5 years, they're doing more cleanings?
Oh yeah.
Since the ROI is there.
The joke is, they buy them to clean the water towers, and they were saying, okay, now go clean up City Hall.
Yeah. Good luck. So how long have you been doing the pressure washing part?
It's coming up on 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Y'all pivoted in 22?
Yeah. So it was right during COVID is when we did the pivot. So actually the pivot was 2020, but the sales didn't really start in earnest until 2022. Yeah.
So what my mind keeps coming back to is when we did the innovation symposium here, and you and Gordon
Mhm.
And then who was it? Blue Vigil, Carl.
Right, Carl.
You guys were sitting up there. We were doing a Q&A, and there were a lot of entrepreneurs in the crowd.
Right.
People who are kind of going through their downturns and their pivots and trying to come, crawl through the other side. And you mentioned something about starting with the spray painting,
Mhm.
then going into the pressure washing, and then that's when things took off. And you
Right.
said, listen, sometimes simplicity matters.
Yes.
That has stuck with me. We did that in January.
Yeah.
That has stuck with me for 3 months.
Yeah.
So was that an aha moment for you? And is that
It was because looking back, that was one of the mistakes I made, and I made many. But one of the mistakes was I would say, "Oh, that's simple. Nobody wants to power wash. I want to do this sexy thing, which is software programming to make this really cool robot that does painting."
Yeah.
So I was all like, "Rah, rah, rah, painting, 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 boo, 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 power wash."
And
so had I not had that block or that mental attitude, had I seen that sooner, we would have been profitable a lot sooner.
it's got to be one of the things you tell entrepreneurs now that reach out to you for advice. Is there anything else that stands out in the last 10 years that have, has obviously led you to your success? Is there anything else you're passing along to other people who are trying to build companies?
Yeah. So one of those would be pick your customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Expand.
So you often, when you're starting a company, will take anybody as a customer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. And it's actually long-term better for you if you're selective in your customers.
Okay.
And that can come down to anything from the I guess it's called a strategy called I was just talking about this the other day. Price. It's not price fixing, but it's you set a price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Price anchoring, right? You set a price, right? So our first drone was $250,000, right? People all of a sudden like, what? Can I buy a drone for $500 and fly it around and take pictures and stuff? Aren't you doing that? You're measuring things. These picture drones. Why is yours $250,000? But once you say it's $250,000, all of a sudden it opens up this. Wait, what is it doing that makes it that valuable? And then when you understand that the customers that buy it tend to know how to unlock value with it.
Mm.
So if we had set that price point for, because our cost of goods manufactured was a fraction of that, right? If we had set that at double our cost of goods or 4x our cost of goods, it would have been a whole different clientele.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you describe your company to others, do you call it a drone company?
I don't. I call it a software company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another thing from this symposium that stands out to me, whenever I was aligning the speakers,
Right.
I was talking to Gordon Folks from Archer, who was one of the presenters, and I said, we're trying to do drone companies. He goes, I want to stop you right there. We're not a drone company. The drone is the thing that does the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, it's very important that we call it that, because what we do is we deliver medical solutions in a timely fashion,
right,
when 911 can't get there fast enough.
Right.
The drone is what allows us to do it.
Right.
But we are not a drone company.
Right.
So when people talk about Appellix, you're saying you call it a software company.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And even though there's a hardware component, it's the same thing with your phone. Your phone is not just a phone, right? It's a camera, it's a text message, it's this app, it's that app. It's got all these different things that it does. Some people have referred to that as hardware wrapped in plastic. So, the engineers that designed the iPhone, never thought of half of these different apps that are being run on there. But, they made a platform, and that's kind of what a drone is. A drone is a platform. You can put different payloads on it to do different things.
It's a good distinction.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring it up because I feel that is important.
Yeah.
People will look at the drone doing the pressure wash. They're like, oh, it's a drone company.
Right.
But it's a software company and the drone is the thing that does the thing.
Right. And then part of our business model, intentional, was we sold it as a package. Here's your drone. It's yours. We'll support you. We want you to be successful as a company. Our motto is Appellix is successful when you're successful. So we put a lot of love and blood, sweat, and tears into our initial early customers early on, to build our brand, to build our reputation, to like do things like we'd send a technician on an airplane if there was an issue. Bam, up there, fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
One brand new drone TSA couldn't get the arm back down on it, and they took the screws out and threw it in the Appellix, and the guy opens up his drone. He's like, the arm's off the drone. so we flew a guy up there to fix it for him, which, by the way, cost about the same as if he had mailed the drone to us and we'd mailed it back.
Yeah. Somebody got a free trip out of it, though.
Right. So, putting that effort into initial service for people was important. But the concept is that you want to make sure that you're treating those initial customers right, because you're building a brand.
Of course.
Yeah.
When somebody buys a drone for $47,000, you've somewhat touched on this. They get the piece of equipment.
Right.
There's obviously a service component to
Right.
it, but the software, the maintenance, stuff
Right.
like that, to what extent is that included?
Yeah, so that's all included as a package.
Okay.
Up until
Software is too.
Yep, up until this year. So January 2026, a deliberate strategy shift for us was you can buy the drone that same way with all the software. It'll work the way it always does, or you have the option to buy the SaaS component, the software as a service component, which is a recurring revenue for us, but also unlocks additional functionalities and features for the customer. So the first thing we launched was the AI, of course, Appellix Intelligence.
Yep.
And that's where you draw a box on the display, hit go, and the drone goes up there and cleans autonomously without you doing anything other than watching it.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah. So you can buy the drone and manually do this stuff, or you can buy the software where it does this, and then every quarter there's a new thing that comes out that adds autonomy, adds functionality, adds, different things to make you more productive with the drone.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, any enhancements that we make that include safety, for example, bam, they're in the base package automatically, because the other thing we call ourselves is a safety company.
Yep.
Because
that's the whole point, right?
We are all about taking people off of elevation and putting robots up there to do work.
When we interviewed the PS27 Entrepreneurship Awards, at the end of it, I said, Bob, what do you want your legacy to be? Do you remember what you said?
I do.
What'd you say?
That nobody at elevation falls and dies from doing a job that a robot couldn't be up there doing.
Because Appellix is going to solve that problem.
Appellix is going to solve that problem. We've started down that road. I mean, our company, again, is Working Drones, Inc., right? So these are drones that do work. And we have a pipeline of a lot of things that are coming out that will be able to, over time, reduce the number of people at elevation doing dangerous things.
Do you feel, I don't even know that there would be data to prove this, but you would have to have an intuition about this. Do you feel at this point you've saved a life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So last year, I was at the International Window Cleaners Association giving a presentation. Afterwards, one of the people in the audience said, Bob, I love this. I've been a window cleaner for 15 years. Said, my dad was a window cleaner. He fell and died. So unfortunately, the statistic is pretty abhorrent. It's like every other day, somebody in the world falls and dies from working at elevation. So if you can cut that in half, you can cut that in half again. And if you can get that down to 0, that's what we're at. That's what we're after. That's what we want.
I mean, I'm rooting for you, obviously.
Yeah.
On let's play devil's advocate for just a second. For every drone that gets put in the air, we've already put into the world that essentially an entrepreneur spreads its wings.
Yeah.
But for every time you put a drone in the air, maybe 2 window washers aren't working.
Yes and
Potentially.
no.
So
it's actually a job creator, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. So
I'd love to break this down.
One of the things that people think is, okay, if I'm put a window washer up there and take 2 jobs and make a robot, now it's 1 job. That's not exactly right, because you still have to have the drone pilot. You still have to have the people operating the equipment. And what you're doing is you're taking that person off of elevation and putting them on the ground where they're using their brain. So one thing is, okay, am I going to stand up there spray painting all day doing this? Is that my highest and best use case? No.
Right.
My highest and best use case is saying, okay, where do I need to paint? How do I need to paint? What material do I need to put? Epoxy or an acrylic latex? All these different things, making the plan on how the robot's going to paint. That's your best and highest use, not just waving your hand back and forth all day in the hot sun.
Yeah.
So that, coupled with the backlog we have for getting to the aging infrastructure, just in maritime alone, because I was recently at an event about coatings for the shipping industry, right? Just in maritime alone, by the end of this year, there's over 250,000 positions that haven't been filled for painters and blasters. 250,000. How are you taking jobs away? There is no way to get all that work done if you don't add automation, if you don't add robots.
Does the aging workforce go into play here too?
It does. It does. So those jobs I was talking about, the average age is 55. So you got a lot of people exiting. Very few come in. One of the other statistics, and this was a recent study that just came out last week from the Association of Materials Performance and Protection, is of the new people that come into the industry, there's an 80% attrition rate within 2 years. That means only 20% of the people that come into the corrosion industry for painting and blasting stay more than 2 years.
What do you attribute to that?
It's hard work.
Yeah.
Oh God, I wouldn't want to do it. Be up in a lift all day in the hot sun, waving your hand back and forth. There's certain coatings that you use that they actually measure the time that you've done it, because some of the compounds in it are toxic, and they just assume that you're going to breathe it in, or even if you've got a suit on, right? It's going to get in your lungs, or you'll absorb it through your skin, and so you're limited after you've painted that particular product for X number of hours. That's it. You're never going to paint again. So it is a dangerous, dirty, dull job.
Yep.
Nobody wants to do that.
So,
it's much better to be here using your brain, saying, okay, I'm gonna have this robot do this. How am I going to do it? Programming the robot, doing all that type of stuff, operating the robot, watching the robot, because it's not fully autonomous, nor will it be there that quickly. So you're always going to have a human in the loop.
Okay. Job creator.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
The process, obviously the drone flies, the water goes up, sprays, but we have to have a specific type of water.
Right.
Walk through that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to cleaning, there are techniques that you would use. So if you're cleaning glass, for example, when you're done, you always rinse it with deionized water. And that's what makes it streak free. If you use regular water, you can get the little dots on there. What happens with deionized water is you're taking the negative ion out. You're also taking any minerals or dirt out. So when it hits, it's pure, sometimes referred to as pure water. When it hits the window, anything that has a positive ion, including other droplets of water, are all attracted to it. They're sucked to it, and then it just sheets off. And so you've got no spots, no runs, anything like that. It just sheets right off.
Okay.
Really simple, but you have to know that.
And when people buy the drone, is like the tank come with it, or do they have to get their own tank?
We sell that additionally,
Okay.
if they want that, if they don't have that already.
So the Appellix tank holds how much water?
Well, what we sell are different. They're called kits or skids or rigs, right? And we have different configurations that people can buy if they don't have one. Most of the time, the people are going to use a 250-gallon tank, and then for their main water source, and then they'll have a 100-gallon tank with like maybe sodium hypochlorite or a cleaning agent in it. And then they have what's called a manifold, which is just a mixer that you've got your pump, and after it goes through the pump, you can dial in the amount of cleaning agents you want, dial it up or dial it down, depending on how dirty the structure is.
And if a drone is shooting at a standard PSI,
right?
How long would it shoot until the standard tanks run?
Well, most of the time, not always. So you could run all alone by itself, and then you're going to run out of water. If you're doing 6 or 8 gallons per minute, you just do the math, divide that by 250 gallons, and you'll run out. But that's not how that's not how it's used most of the time. Most of the time, it's a buffer tank. So you have your garden hose over here that you drag to the tank, and you're filling it at 5 gallons a minute, and you're using maybe 6 to 8 gallons per minute. So you're only draining that buffer 3 gallons per minute.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you for walking me through the pressure washing part.
Yeah.
My natural curiosity, Bob, is you started in spray painting, you pivoted, you had a run of success with pressure washing.
Right.
And now you're like, let's go back to spray painting.
Exactly.
Walk me through
all that
what you're doing now with this.
All that explosive growth I was talking about is all pressure wash. And just this year, we launched our spray painting drone. So it's already starting to take off, and there's a lot of sales. There's some companies buying fleets of it. So that's gonna, that's a actually larger market, we believe, than power washing.
How did you figure out the market this go round? The spray painting part.
By looking at the industrial space. So we're talking spray painting drones. In some respect, they're kind of not mature, right? They can do flat vertical surfaces, but they're not going to paint your house,
Mm.
and you don't want to because that's where the value creation is the least. So you think of commercial, industrial, military. Typically, that's your price points as well, right?
Yeah.
And then you think residential, that's a step down. So the technology is also the most complex. So there's less value creation there. So what we've targeted is the commercial and the industrial most.
Okay.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to see this in like any kind of action,
Mm-hmm.
I know that you have a little practice area outside of the office.
Yeah.
How can people come put their eyes on what's going on?
We just doubled the R&D size of our facility outside the office and built some other structures out there so we can do some different testing. Quarterly, we have events. So we had our AI launch event here in Jacksonville
Yeah.
a few months ago, and that was at State Bank on JTB Butler, and we washed the front. That's where we introduced we had customers in line. They'd come up and draw a box, hit go, and watch it paint, watch it, clean. So that did well. And then May 1st, we're having a spray painting drone demo at our facility. So people can come and fly the drone themselves and see it paint.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, if you're a customer and you want to buy one, contact our salespeople and they'll set up a private demo for you.
Okay. So quarterly, they can come watch what you're doing. It kind of segues me into Jacksonville a little bit.
Yeah.
You've been here the whole time building this company.
Yeah.
You found success here in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? And, what would you say about Jacksonville that they're doing so well that it can be a builder's paradise?
I would say it's a mixed bag, like anything. Everything's got its advantages and disadvantages. It's good parts and it's not so good parts. Jacksonville, when it comes to funding, because I had really difficult problem raising funding, even being a second-time entrepreneur, right? So to date, Appellix has been funded by friends and friends of friends, right? So we've had all angel investors. A lot of them have done really well. So but no institutional investors.
Okay.
Because, just looking at the state, a lot of money is available from venture capitalists and financial entities like those, angel investors and stuff in South Florida, Central Florida, and Tampa, even Panhandle, but it's kind of a desert here.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have to look outside of Jacksonville for that.
So what's the best piece of advice you can give somebody who's trying to build a company here?
Persistence.
Yeah. Just keep going.
Yeah. Just keep going.
Even when it sucks.
It's always going to suck, you're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows. It's going to be a roller coaster, but you just have to, if you have planned it right and you're smart and in your heart of hearts that this is something that's going to take off, you have to be persistent. If it was easy, somebody would have done it already.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. One more question, if you don't mind, and then we'll dig into a little bit of gratitude. My favorite thing about what you've done is that you get to work with your wife and daughter. How does that feel?
It feels really great. It's really cool. So it started with my lead technician. We hired his son, and then our salesperson hired his brother. But my daughter came to work for me recently. So my wife's always been working on it in the background. So she's been active on different things and doing things because she's an educator. So she put together the Appellix Academy because there's a lot of education. I tell people there are 3 things to be successful. One is you need the drone. 2 is you need the equipment. But the most important thing is the education. You need the knowledge of how all that works. So she's been instrumental in building the Appellix Academy. And then my daughter, who was a lawyer on Wall Street, recently joined. And she's really ratcheted the company up because just bringing that New York cadence and pace and that all those connections and intelligence that she has been just phenomenal. And so it's amazing to work with her every day. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Where can people get a hat like that?
Believe it or not, this is from Pilot Gas Station. It's a $20 hat.
Really?
Yeah. So the truck stops by the side.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
$20 to look that sharp. Okay. Where can they, Appellix.com?
Yeah.
LinkedIn?
www.appellix.com or on LinkedIn, Facebook, any of the social medias.
Beautiful. I always leave with this. It's so important.
It is.
Pioneers, builders, Jacksonville, right? Yep. You started an industry, you put something into an industry that really didn't exist yet. That's pioneering. You built a company you've built multiple companies, but Appellix specifically, you've built a company here, and then Jax, Jacksonville, obviously in Northeast Florida. You are the reason that quite a few people get to pay rent and put food on the table. What you've built, what you've grown, what you've matured has allowed you to hire people and get them to work in a day and age where not everybody's going to work right now.
Yeah.
It's a very tough world out there. And as you guys are doing well and you're building and you're growing, you've had an opportunity to hire your daughter. You've had an opportunity to work with your wife. But every time I've gone into the Appellix office, there's a ton of people working. And I know they're grateful. I am also grateful. And I want to let you know that from me to you, from the city to you, thank you so much. Thank you for building it, man.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Bob, thank you for being on the show, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.